Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Andy in Singapore. If you haven't done so, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel, like my videos, because I've got new videos uploaded every week just for you. In today's video, we're going to do a full review of the new Seiko 5KX, and this is the 38mm version. I unboxed this one a couple of weeks back, and I think this is a great addition to Seiko's lineup because the Seiko fans out there, they've been asking for it, they've been clamoring for a new smaller dimension 5KX sports watch, and they're finally getting it. You know, this is like 3 years after the 5KX was launched, and we've got really nice new colorways. I think they've got the Tiffany blue edition that is sold out everywhere and anywhere, and this one here in for review is the SKX013, and this has a champagne dial that looks off-white at certain angles, looks a little bit silver at some angles, but this is a JDM model, and as you can see on the day wheel, it's got a kanji day wheel here. The word here is called mu in Chinese, alright, it's kanji letter, but mu should mean Thursday. No confirmation on that, but I think this is really cool because there are some Seiko collectors who really think that this day wheel, adds to the cool factor, and I agree with them. So I would say this is a direct reincarnation of the SKX013, which itself is a smaller version of the SKX011 or SKX007. Alright, of course, it doesn't have all the professional diving specifications, it doesn't have ISO rating, it doesn't have screw-in crown, it doesn't have loom pip, but it does have a display case back. Alright, so it's got smaller dimensions, it's got reduced water resistance. So this is, I would say, an ideal sports watch for men with smaller wrists, as well as women who don't want to wear comical looking sports watches on their wrist. So I think for many smaller wristed women, alright, those like just under 6 inches or around 6-inch mark, putting on a 43mm 5KX, right, could look a little bit comical, and this would be the perfect size. With the lens zoom in very slightly, let's run through some of the key specs of the 38mm 5KX. It's got a case size of 38mm, as mentioned earlier in this video, but I'd like to bring to your attention this newly reduced overall thickness. This one comes in at 12.1mm, and I think that's pretty thin for a Seiko entry-level mechanical watch. Typically, 5KX watches, they come in around 13.5mm. That's about the same as a Seiko Samurai or a Seiko Turtle, but this comes in at 12.1mm, and I think this is a very manageable and very comfortable thickness. Lug width of the 38mm 5KX is 20mm, making this one a strap monster. Rubber strap, nylon, NATO, stock bracelet, aftermarket bracelets. I think you can find a good range of different choices for this bracelet swap. L to L distance here is 43.5mm. Again, this is going to please many smaller wristed individuals as well as the ladies. We've also got reduced bezel size. This one comes in at around 35mm, which is really small. Alright, so if you're talking about a watch with rotate bezel and all that, the overall bezel size, if it's 35, would mean a really small looking watch. This one has a crystal size of about 22mm. Alright, we are entering non-sports watch categories with such measurements. So this one being a Seiko 5 model, it has the 4R36 movement, which is a very boring and unsophisticated Seiko movement, but it is a workhorse, and to keep things at this price point, of course, Seiko is going to just put in their cheapest mechanical movement. And this being a JDM model, it does command a slight premium over the international versions. You can definitely get this watch at around low $300, and this watch was loaned in from our boutique Alright, so let me just take some time to thank Eric at our boutique for so kindly loaning me all these watches for my video reviews. So let's go on and talk about the overall case design as well as build quality. Alright, so this is just a scaled down version of the 5KX that many Seiko fans have been very familiar with, alright? The reissue of SKX, alright, the new generation of Seiko sports watch, Seiko 5 sports watch. In terms of build quality, I think this is still very basic, nothing fanciful, okay? It's exactly what you will get with a 200 to 300 Singapore dollars type of Seiko. Decent finishing all around, alright, nothing that really screams cheap, nothing that really screams luxurious, just very standard basic vanilla type of build quality for a price like this. You know, other things such as the end links, the clasp, everything remains box standard. This is the standard type of folded end links as well as this clasp here, which has got trigger buttons and all that. So do bear in mind that there's also a reduced number of micro adjusts you can get on this clasp here. There are only 2 dots here, alright, or 2 levels. Typically, I think for a diver, there will be about 4. Moving on now to the overall case design as well as the color combination on this watch. I love this champagne dial at different angles to the light. It appears quite different. Alright, so over here it may look silver, and then as I turn this way, it looks like champagne, and at this angle it looks like off-white. Interesting amount of light play as well as sunburst going on the dial. Even the hands, despite being around the same color as the dial, I think we've got really good contrast. I don't know how this is achieved. Could be the border on the hands, or maybe the hands and the dial, they're just different colors and all that. Contrast here is really good. You don't get any of those legibility problems you will get with lighter colored dials. And then of course there's this kanji day wheel here, which looks pretty cool, but frankly it doesn't make much of a difference. Alright, so it's just kanji day wheel, but I think this is a big deal for many Seiko collectors or fans out there. For me personally, I think no problems at all. I usually just switched it to the English day wheel version. Let's take a look at the loom shot of the Seiko 5. Alright, so again, you know, Seiko, they never disappoint when it comes to loom. Loom application here is right up there with any other Seiko divers or Seiko sports watches. Very evenly applied, and this Lumi Bright, I would say, definitely one of the brightest out there. Zooming out for a quick stage wrist shot of the 5KX on my wrist, you will see that this is a really small watch. Alright, the overall dial and bezel ratio, I think it makes the watch look even smaller. Alright, so the case is 38, but the dial size is very much smaller, and again, everything adds up. Makes the watch look very small. I'm liking the overall thickness here, 12.1 millimeters, very wearable watch. Alright, so in terms of weight, this is also really nice weight for a full stainless steel bracelet version. I think this one here comes in at around just under 160 grams with bracelets still unsized. Very good weight for a sports watch. Bringing in my Zin 556 here for a size comparison, you will see how small the 38mm 5KX is. Right, both watches around the same case size, but that's on paper, alright? 5KX 38mm. This is Zin 556 38.5, but due to the absence of a rotate bezel, the Zin looks that much bigger because of its bigger dial size. Alright, the difference here is day and night, I would say. So I think this new size, new dimension of the 5KX is definitely a good move by Seiko, because it sort of pleases fans who've been asking for a smaller 5KX, maybe to make it as a couple watch with their wives or girlfriends, or even for the smaller wristed individuals who prefer a smaller watch. These days, they're very much in trend, so you don't get to see those 48mm kind of watches anymore, and this will be a really good choice for the type of watch collectors who prefer their watches to be 40 and under. So there you have it. That was my full review of the new 38mm Seiko 5. I think it's a really great size, very good for daily wearing, as well as, you know, for ladies who want to give the Seiko Sports 5 a try. Alright, so this is Andy in Singapore. Come back next week for more watch reviews. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.